I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, June the 18th, where it is video sale season. Not necessarily this week. Well, they are having one on Superior. Of course, they have them pretty regular there. But you need, if you think you want to consign your cattle, your yearling feeders especially coming off grass, if you want to consign them to a big video, you need to get with it because the deadlines are coming up here. Some of them are this week for the big specials. Most of them coming up right after 1st of July there, right around the 4th. But you know, I'm a big proponent of the auction selling. I would prefer brick and mortar sales, but if you've got several loads of cattle and they're turned out on grass and you really hate to incur the shrink and everything and taking them into a sale, you'd rather ship them from your place or your grass wherever you got it leased, or if it's your own. That's a good way to do it too, is to have a video auction, but at least it's a competitive way to sell your cattle. But like I said, Superior's got their tall grass special coming up Thursday. They got Big Sky Roundup in a little bit later in June. They've got the week in the Rockies, the second week in July. That's always a big deal. But there's a lot of other video auctions out there too, guys. Northern Video has big summer videos. They've got one coming up June 28th, their early summer special, and then their big one will be towards the middle part of July. Two of them that I'm more associated with that I push, of course I want to tell you guys everything that's going on, is Western Video Market. They're having their big early summer sale. It's out at Reno, Nevada, and it's July the 8th through the 10th. You can view and bid right here on dvauction.com or go to WVM Cattle. But the deadline for that is the latter part of this week. So get a hold of your representative, which is usually a reputable auction market in the western half of the United States. But that is a hot sale. That'll be a good sale. Was able to go out there to it last year, but I made the mistake of showing a friend of mine, Glenn Benjamin, how to run that console, and kind of put myself out of a job. So don't know if I'll get to go back. Maybe one of these days I'll get to go back, but I am planning on being at the Primetime Livestock Video at Downstream Casino in Quapaw, Oklahoma, which is just west of Joplin, and the Joplin Regional Stockyards, the same outfit there. But they're having a big sale, video sale or online sale, July the 2nd there at the casino. They call it the Big Bang Sale, and it is always a big one. And I plan on being there at that sale. And so if you guys are thinking about maybe attending, it's on July the 2nd. Should be around there the day before too. But come by and visit with me. Come by that sale, see what it's all about. That sale is growing by leaps and bounds at Primetime Video. Of course, it's through Joplin Regional Stockyards, but Colby Flat there, good guys, kind of managing that deal, pushing really hard, and they are getting a lot of cattle all over the country, not just in the four-state area, but they're getting cattle, you know, way out there in Florida, down in Texas. They'll have some Flint Hill cattle on that video too, but that is a big sale. And try to tune into that one either on Primetime Livestock's website or on dvauction.com, because we will be taking the online bids from that sale too. Let's look at the board on Monday. Opened up pretty good, not unlike a week ago. So maybe that'll get us kind of a positive note for the rest of the week. But June live cattle futures up 67 cents on Monday, ending the day at 109.45. August up $1.35 at 105.62. August feeder cattle up 140 at 136.92. September up 137 at 137.17. Now your beans were up slightly, or your corn was up slightly. Your beans were up big. They were up 16 cents on your nearby. It's pretty close there. But your crop progress report come out. We've just about squeezed all the good out of that. But as of the end of this past week, corn is 92% planted. So that doesn't mean that we're going to get all the big yield and bushels and the crop and acres that we had a year ago, but for those that intended to plant corn this year, 92% of it's in the ground. Okay, it's not too bad. There's going to be some wet spots. There's going to be some that needed to be replanted. They didn't get replanted. We don't know if it's going to be a bumper crop, but there's plenty of moisture in most places. We know that. But 92% now in the ground. That compares to 83% the previous week and 100% complete both last year and for the 5-year average. Your beans, 77% completed on the planting. That compares to 60% last week, 96% last year, and 93% for the 5-year average. Not sure why that resulted in 16 cents higher on a Monday, but those beans can get really volatile. Let's look at your weighted average for last week's negotiated fat cattle trade in the 5-area feeding region. 51,400 head were sold. That's nothing. That's just barely half of what we need to be doing. That 51,400 compares to 90,900 a week ago, but curiously about the same as a year ago. They didn't trade very much the same week last year, and it has something to do with Father's Day in there. But if you look at your prices, your weighted average on live steers in the 5-area feeding region, 113.62. That was only down 14 cents from the weighted average from the previous week. So held that. Your dressed steer weighted average was 184.48. That was actually 27 cents higher than the weighted average from the previous week. So that's good, albeit on a much lighter movement. And you think, oh, this market's terrible. Well, a year ago, this same week, your weighted average was a couple bucks lower at 111.28 on a live basis and quite a bit lower on dressed at 177.55. But the Northern Plains is kind of holding this thing together. If you remember, the last sales we saw in the Southern Plains were in Kansas at $1.10. They're giving them away, and word has it that they are trucking those up north to fill some needs up there, and you see that. And if it costs $10 a hundred to truck those $10s up to, I'm not saying it does, but if it did, they would still do it to keep a cap on this market. And nationwide, there was 67,900 head sold, negotiated. About 20% of those 15 to 30-day delivery. But I tell you what, the contracts is what's scary, guys. Every month's contracts that are already written for cattle to be delivered during that month through October are already higher than what they were altogether last year. So, you know, they know that there's going to be a lot of market-ready cattle. We get into August here, the dog days of summer, and then you remember how hot it is when we get into that early fall too. They're really going to try to press down on this market when we get into that. But let's talk about something else. What about your fake meat? I try to keep you guys up to date on anything I see on the fake meat because I'm afraid you guys are going to forget about it. I tell you what, for these funds, it's pretty fun here this spring to buy stock in the fake meat and to short your futures on your cattle. Shouldn't be that easy, guys. But I did read an article that I had a friend of mine send to me. Very interesting. This article was out of a publication called The New Republic, and I haven't seen anything else from them, but I'm not guessing it's anything like Beef Magazine or Feedlot, maybe an exact opposite. So they're not proponents of anything that we do, but it was pretty much fair about it. And I thought it was interesting to read in there that, of course, they're all about the environment, and it's not necessarily a health thing anymore, guys. It's all about the environment and how cow farts are ruining the earth and all this nonsense. But I did note in that article that fake meat's problem is that real meat is a whole food. It's one of your main ingredients, and meat is a whole food. It's like a banana or an apple or a potato. That the ingredients is that. The ingredients is in beef is beef. The ingredients in a potato is a potato. This the fake meat, both Impossible Meats and Beyond Meat, they each have over 20 different ingredients in them. And we don't even know, we know that there's some of that in there, but we really don't know how it's all put together because it's put together in a laboratory. And I did pull out one statement in that publication that I thought was very kind of intriguing the way that they put it. And it says in there, this author says that a Cheeto or a Twinkie both is unambiguously synthetic. So we know that it's put together different parts. It's unambiguously, which is hard to say, synthetic. But fake meat products are engineered specifically to fool our senses into thinking that they're whole foods. So basically, compared to a Cheeto or a Twinkie, you know, a Cheeto or a Twinkie is like a banana compared to this fake meat. I tell you what, there's so many things in there. They did take note that people that are anti-GMOs, if they knew how this stuff was put together, they wouldn't be crazy about it because it is the ultimate GMOs. And the base part of both of those, both Beyond and Impossible, is come from a GMO. And so they're not going to like that if they get to look into it. But right now, it's still just the trendy, new, fun thing to do. Another thing they did note in there that hasn't been published anywhere before, and I hate to call them out, but you know what? If you guys are traders, you're traders. Beyond Meat does not actually make their product in their laboratories. They don't have the final product. That's not where they make it and ship it out. Beyond Meat's products are actually put together on the West Coast by CLW Foods, which is a ground beef manufacturer. And on the East Coast, one that I'm familiar with, and I think probably a lot of you are too, especially if you've been in an East Coast sale barn, but FLP Foods, heard a lot of slaughter cows checked out to FLP, and that's in Georgia. Now, both of those plants are advertise themselves as ground beef manufacturers, but they'll sell out for a nickel, and they're making product for Beyond Meat, which is a big competitor in just changing our whole industry and the way we live, and they're wanting to do just like the fake dairy products and take 13% of the market share. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. OKC, Oklahoma City National Stockyards, Monday's big sale, the nation's market on a Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards, 7,850 head. And it's funny, I'm not sure what the deal on this market is, but the board was up. The early week markets, actually, the market owes them a couple of bucks, but still, Oklahoma City steady to $5 lower, and Market News quoted spots $7 to $9 lower on 7-weight feeder steers. Wow, that hurt. Feeder heifers steady to $3 lower. We're not getting calves anywhere in the central part of the United States to really call a market, but let's look at that and just think about why that could be that much lower. Well, we moved the last of the graze out cattle here a couple of weeks ago. Graze out cattle aren't necessarily a holiday weekend to feed, but they're better than the backgrounded cattle. So we're out of those cattle. Nobody's pulling cattle off grass yet. So the only feeder cattle that had available, if they were yearlings or even short yearlings, they've probably been heavily backgrounded, fed some kind of a ration. If they weren't that, they're just giant calves that they waited this long to pull. So that probably says more about why those feeder cattle, the feeder weights of cattle, were lower rather than what they'd been here the last few weeks as they moved the last of those graze out wheat cattle, which had kind of ran out of graze out wheat there for a couple of weeks. It was just muddy and they couldn't get them in, which made them even more attractive. Joplin Regional Stockyards in kind of a different area, yearling feeders there were steady with spots as much as $5 higher on some of those 6-weight yearling heifers. They always have calves, that part of the country. They were steady to $3 higher. Make a note, Joplin Regional Stockyards is going to have around 50 loads of true yearling feeder cattle next week at the regular Monday auction. So make note of that. You'll want to see that, to see what the market did on it. You guys that are wanting true yearlings to feed, even you guys up in the northern plains, even if they don't have a lot of hair on them, it's not going to hurt you this time of year, guys, because before the snow flies again, hopefully, you should have those cattle gone. But give you a couple of individual quotes on a Monday. Elgin Livestock Sales, Ted Baum and Company there in Nebraska. 62 head of 915-pound steers bring 133 and a quarter. Pretty good quote there. And then F&T Livestock Market in Palmyra, Missouri. 56 head of 761-pound steers bring 148.75. That's getting pretty close to 800 pounds, guys. But that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.